wanted to do a follow-up video to one of my previous videos that I just did. I want to say maybe 3 weeks ago. But it was addressing the various factions of Black America as well as American Indians. Just pretty much that was a response to something that had happened that week. But as I started just thinking more and just really getting feedback and talking with people, I want to do a part 2 because I after this assessment, you know, over the last 3 weeks, I'm really sensing a tension, and some of it is, you know, it could be imagined, but I'm also seeing, like, obviously this stuff with this B1 versus the I guess this FBA stuff. Like, there's some tension around that, but that really doesn't have anything to do with me, so that's pretty much, that's going to be like a small portion of the video. But I want to talk about the tension between those who say they are Black American and the idea of Black as a status, and even this new idea that I just found this out this week, that the legalese of Black now means one of the racial groups from Africa. You know, then some months ago people were saying that the legalese of Black meant civitor mortuus, which was like no provisional standing in law. So it was like all these things of that I gotta actually just sit down and just do some research one day for myself, once again, because the last time I looked a lot of this stuff up was about, I want to say possibly like 6 or 7 months ago. So it looks like some things have changed, but I would say within the last, since February, there's just been this notion, like even this undercurrent of like, should Black Americans be calling themselves Black, and should Black Americans drop it, or what kind of federal classifications that they should be choosing and whatnot, and stuff like that. And it's causing tension for me, just in my approach to people in terms of the work I want to do in the communities I want to serve, but also it's just a observance in my soul that is just like, I just gotta get a lot of this stuff out. And so I'm going to be expressing a very in-depth part of my heart on this in this particular video, so it may get a little mushy. I'm not normally a mushy person, so I'm gonna be in rare form today. I'm not even gonna hold you. Like, I'm gonna be in a rare archetype, because there's a lot of shit that I'm observing, you know, and I don't, these days, if you notice, I've not been talking as much. Believe it or not, in my personal life, I'm extremely introvert. I'm extremely aloof. So I spend a lot of time observing shit anyways. But, you know, like when they have these metaverse, like the Clubhouse and the, you know, this YouTube, the Discord stuff, you know, I did speak more, but once they add this chat, you know, on the Clubhouse, they add this chat where you can listen and then just chat simultaneously. So I have not been speaking as much on any of these platforms because they have the chat. And you guys don't know this, but my preferred form of communication is writing. Like, if I can write something out, that's what I would do versus go and speak, mainly because I don't know, for some reason that takes more energy, that drains me more than just being in my head and be able to write out and just get it out. So now that they added that chat to the Clubhouse, and then, you know, like even on the YouTube they have this live chat, you know, that would be my go-to. That's just a personality quirk, but anyways, I want to address like this growing divide, you know, like I'm sensing like a heightened, you know, like tension between Black Americans who know they are Indian, but don't mind going by Black American, or they know they have admixture and they go by Black American or Freedman or ADOS, whatever, these terms that people align with based off of politics or a particular ideology, or even geographic location, possibly. lineage, tribe, whatever, you know. So there's you have that, and then you have the American Indian community who solely go by Indian, and in some instances some are offended by even using this term black. So that's obviously a juxtaposition. And again, I'm not in the business of judging people's perspectives at this time in my life. So good, bad, right, or wrong, I will express some objectivity about it, but I don't really, I'm not going to be scolding people for where they stand on the drawing board, me personally. But I want to address it because I want to shed light on where my perspective, once and for all, like my approach, my strategy, my perspectives, because it is really no secret that since I came to the public in 2020, I've taught a lot on Black American history as well as African history. And around 2021, April of 2021 to be exact, I got on this Clubhouse app, and within my first week I ran into people who were doing these diaspora, well, I won't say it. Let me rephrase this. I ran into people who were defending Black Americans against certain things that were being said about us by the diaspora, or just this what they call this diaspora war or something. So diaspora tensions or whatever at the time. And so I got on the app precisely because I saw what was going on Clubhouse in miniature clips on YouTube and Twitter. And I remember thinking, like, why the fuck are people going that hard on Black Americans? Like, what is this? Where is this running notion that we are Akatas and blah 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 and lazy? Blah, blah. Like something, I did get triggered. So I'm like, oh, let me get on this app and tell people speak my mind. You know, it like anybody really cares, or like it actually really even matters. But nonetheless, that's what I did. But obviously when you go on these apps, you're gonna just run into clicks, you're gonna run into people. So I ended up running into, like, I think this ADOS space, or that was they were challenging or combating this running notion of Black Americans, the stereotypes about Black Americans from the diaspora. So they were challenging that, and I, of course, wanted to bring my perspective to that conversation, and I did that, and at this time it seemed like the ADOS was coming out of, there was a shift in terms of making it an organization versus just a lineage, and so there's some politics behind it. So I remember witnessing a shift from the end of this ADOS drama morphing into people going into more of this freedman status. Like, I remember this is when this was all going on, and I witnessed it. I kind of just observed because I didn't really know what the hell was going on. I was not a part of the ADOS organization, but I understood the tenets of delineation, or I understood the logic behind it, because at that time I was like, yeah, we need to delineate. Like, this is getting crazy. Like, everybody was shitting on Black Americans, and then at the same time, usurping our identities. Like, just to me, it was just insane what was happening. So I, of course, listened to more ideas about the delineation, more ideas about justice claims. Like, so this stuff was kind of new to me. So I'm just like, okay, let me learn, but also, I used to go to different spaces and just speak. I used to be, I was wild. Like, to be honest, like, I do not carry myself in that kind of fashion like how I was doing a year ago. I can't even believe, like, being that triggered, or just that just lacking that emotional regulation at the time. It just was not a good look. But nonetheless, I would go and just fly off the handle at whoever, anybody. And I guess some American Indians, they heard me speaking or something happened, but one of them popped up in my Instagram DMs, and we talked or whatever. They wrote me first and said, hey, I liked what you said on the stage, or you were trying to you did a great job of bridging the gap or whatever. And then it was somebody else had messaged the person, and they came back and said, hey, somebody said they heard you arguing against Pan-Africanism, and they thought you did an excellent job, and we want to help you do your genealogy for free. Okay, like, you know, like, what is that, you know? So I'm like, okay, that sounds cool. So they pinged me to the room, American Indian room. This was literally like my first week on the Clubhouse, going into my second week. So this was a year ago, April 7th, a little bit over a year ago, and this is what happened. So I went in there, learned about this concept of genealogy, learned about, you know, learning the new aspects of or the new revelations about American history that are oftentimes not taught in mainstream academia or even just the education system, period. So I enjoyed learning about that, and they didn't receive any pushback from me, and for one, I'm extremely open-minded, but no one just blindly follows anything after being pinged to a room one time. So obviously there was a seed that was sown or planted previously that would even pull me to accept the information that was being given, but also to just sit, you know, for a whole year, or, you know, for hours on end, listening to different people in the American Indian community tell their stories, give their ideas about things, bring their evidence, bring their scholarship, their research. And to me, I honestly was impressed by it. Like, I would go and look up stuff, whatever they shared. I would, like, to me, just out of just my curiosity to learn and the excitement about the information itself, I'm like, look, I'm going to look this up right now and go send it to my mom, because actually it was my biological mother that had told me that I was an Indian. You know, I remember at 5 years old when she first told me this. Now you guys know that I am adopted, but I had an open adoption, which means that my adopted mom let both of my biological parents come visit me weekly, even though I was adopted. And this continued even after she died. Like, my parents were always in my life, at least on a weekly basis, or, you know, up during the summer, and then during the Christmas, you know, you stay the whole Christmas break or the spring break or whatever. I would stay with my mom. So, you know, I remember clearly hearing this as a kid. You know what I mean? Like, I remember with every being in my soul, this is what my mom was telling me throughout, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Like, I remember that shit. So that obviously is a big seed that was planted. I remember all the other little kids in Buffalo was told the same shit by their grandparents or their grandma, you know. And then I remember towards high school, stuff shifted. There was an extreme shaming process, you know, when we would tell people our ethnicity. So at that time, it was just like, oh, you black. When I review that process, even with other friends that also knew me, like, I have friends that knew me when I was 9, 10, 11, that are still in my life, and, you know, I called them, I'm like, yo, do you remember when we used to have those discussions, we were kids, about us being Indians, about your grandma told you were Indian, and then, like, I'm like, do y'all remember that? And they're all like, yeah. What happened? What like, we're trying to review the process of, like, okay, when did it start? So it was like around high school for us in Buffalo, and it's like, what the fuck happened where we just morphed into African Americans, like, you know, over a course of a decade, maybe less than a decade, you know, in terms of what the parents and the grandparents are saying versus what the education system or what the public is shaming or pressuring people to fit into. So in terms of me being able to, me for the last year simultaneously moving amongst the Freeman and ADOS in the American Indian community, it was done, one, because I always, when I first went into that room, heard the information from the American Indians, obviously I called my mom and said, hey, you know, I learned this information, do you remember, you know, telling me this, and we had a conversation about it, and Mom was like, yeah, I always knew that. Now, she still says black, but my mom says, yes, I've been telling your ass that, yeah. But the thing is, as far as me getting so heavily into the African history, the Pan-African stuff, my mom told me that my dad, and also my dad believed this as well, obviously, you know, with no genealogy, but my mom did tell me, as well as my dad, that he was a descendant of African slave. You know, that he was how did they, because they didn't say that descendant of African slave, but I can't remember like the exact term, but it was just it was just known that that's what dad was, like that's what at least what we assumed. So to me, you know, me getting into that, it wasn't a far-fetched thing, because like I remember my mom specifically having a type, and my dad is Black American, you know, and after looking into some of his stuff, I'm not seeing, you know, this assumption, a lot of the assumptions that my dad made about his lineage. We're finding some different stuff, you know, we're trying to put all these things together still, and I honestly think I need to, because I've been doing this myself, and talking, I think the last time I talked with some American Indians about my genealogy specifically, it was like 7 months ago. So, you know, still doing some research behind that, but nonetheless, let me get to the point. But nonetheless, that is where all of, for me, why I didn't think, you know, like, oh, I have to choose a side, or I have to be one thing, or pick a specific classification. I didn't feel like that I needed to do that. This is what they told me. Then I'm like, well, she's a American descendant of an Indian that was probably enslaved. Like, you know, I just didn't, you know, it was just like, okay, whatever, you know. So obviously I was extremely open to the information that I was receiving. There was no pushback, and then to me it was also very personal. But just because I was on a personal journey, you know, as far as rediscovering certain aspects of my lineage, I did not think that it was necessary to go to rooms where they were discussing, you know, more so political strategy, you know, like the ADOS and then the Freemans. They would discuss certain things, and I didn't think that it was necessary to bring that up, because those are two different conversations at the time. And actually I made a huge faux pas, because I had no idea that that certain groups had issues, or that certain groups didn't like each other. So I actually did jump on stage one day and, you know, bring all of this information from that I was learning to I think it was ADOS at the time, and I do remember receiving a extreme backlash. Like, it was bad. I didn't know what the fuck was going on, because I'm thinking like, oh, this is all Black American, you know. I'm just you know, still learning shit. But it was extreme backlash. This was literally, I want to say that my first month, probably like the 4th week on the app, when I did this, because I still didn't understand the politics of social media, or I just underestimated how deep the rifts were, you know. So I didn't see anything wrong with what I was saying or what I was doing at the time. But when it was brought to my attention, like I was like thrown out of like one of these groups, you know, that, you know, how people have these think tanks, or like these strategy groups for Black Americans or whatever. I don't know what it was, but I do remember, like, I was in the group, and then someone said, we have did they say, I don't think they said, did they say pretending? I don't know what they said. I don't think that was the word. It was just like, we have someone that is saying that is among us that is not ADOS. And I remember thinking, like, who, like, what? Like, I mean, it just, because it was a subliminal shot. So it was like, you know, I'm at the time, I didn't even think like, oh, that's me, you know, because I just didn't care. Like, I didn't care about these labels. I didn't care. Like, I don't approach the world that way. So it was like, what the fuck? And the next thing you know, I'm kicked out the group. So a couple people called me. I called people as well, and they explained, you know, that there was some serious rifts between the American Indian community and this ADOS stuff, and that there was an agreement to not for the two to not go into each other's spaces and bring up things that are distracting for whatever the conversation is, and I guess that would be reparations. I'm not sure, but there was some sort of agreement that I had no idea about. I just had no idea. So I was like, oh shit, you know, I'm not trying to cause any drama amongst anybody. So I apologize for derailing the room like that, because it was a derailment, and people enjoyed. Like, people had my back. Like, there was some some Indians in that room that had jumped on the stage, or that were already on the stage, in agreement, with what I was saying at the time. So that was pretty comical, but and embarrassing at the same time, because it's like, read the room. Like, when I say I did not read the room, I just was like, hey, that don't sound right. What? And we were going through textbooks. I remember looking through some of them textbooks and seeing how they were changing throughout the year. Like, they throughout the decades, a lot of the American education textbooks would like change certain stuff, So I remember kind of knowing that, and it was a mess. But I'm not going to get into the logistics of that. But anyways, that was besides that incident, and me learning from that experience, and apologizing. I really had no problems with anybody, and I never hid what my journey was in terms of American Indian identity. Like, it was not something that, like, I would go into a space and nobody knew. Like, motherfuckers knew. Like, ADOS people knew, Freedmen knew. And I guess with me being like so receptive to the information that they were presenting as well, so I'm just learning at this point. I like to learn. So, and I'm sure that's probably why they were like, okay, whatever, she cool. We ain't gonna be making no big deal out of it. No one ever made a big deal out of it, not to my face. People was probably talking shit about me, whatever. But I have not, like, for the whole year, like, no one made a big deal about it, and actually until the last month. But yeah, so that is an aspect of my journey. I didn't hide anything. I didn't feel like I needed to, but I also felt like some of the objectives and the goals of these groups were different, and so I can compartmentalize that and see, okay, this group is talking about a strategy or into politics about a justice claim. What is that about? Let me learn about that. And then another group is focusing on American Indian history and genealogy. So those are obviously two different concepts. So it's like, they shouldn't, to me, in my mind, that they don't clash, because they're two different they're two different value propositions. It's like, okay, you're learning about one thing, you don't have to bring in other conversations. So that could be perhaps why I didn't have any problems. But just to make clear, like, there was some scuttlebutt about, my mom telling me that since I was a kid. So pretty much when they reached out to me a year ago, it was like, okay, my mom had told me something about that, so it was no big deal. I'm like, let me go in there and see what's going on. So now it's obviously a year later, and I want to just get certain things on the record, because I'm able to see things for what they are now. I'm a lot more at least politically astute enough to see, okay, these are the differences. This is what's on the chessboard. Like, this is major shit that is going on that I kind of was like somewhat oblivious to. And I want to speak more publicly about where I stand on certain things, because I do feel pulled in two different directions, if I'm being honest, and it's personally frustrating for me. I do feel pulled, and in some instances I have literally been pulled to like a separate, I guess, like pulled to the carpet is what the term is, and been specifically asked, about what do I identify as, and am I rolling with this group or am I rolling with that? It's very, like, whoa, I do feel pulled in two different directions, and it's incredibly uncomfortable. I do want to get on the record that I identify as an American Indian who does not mind the term Black American for communication purposes and for clarity when talking to the people that I need to address. Now, I have very particular reasons for why I even still would refer to Black America as Black Americans, why I would even still be in that paradigm. There's very specific reasons, and I'll get to that later on. But and I say that because I do understand that there is some admixture within the Black American group. There's some people that are admixed. There are people that that could be Black European, that could be African, that could be a mixture of all three, of Caucasian as well as Indian, or even Native American. So there's a lot going on with Black Americans and their personal genealogy, their personal stories, and I understand that based off of mine or what I'm finding right now, finding some interesting stuff, but still looking for more data. Obviously, I'm still just researching. So I wanted to get that on record, that I do not mind this Black American term, and I still use it because when I'm speaking, there is a group, there's certain information that I want to tell to that group. So if I don't want to throw the Black American term away, and I also I do want to say for the record, I don't mind building alliances with other splinters of Black America based on similar interests, and with individuals that are known to be productive and not caught up in drama every 5 or 10 damn seconds. All this beef that people love starting and shit, throwing rocks, hiding their hands, and spreading gossip and rumors and shit. I don't want to work with that. But if anyone from the freedmen or the American Indians, the ADOS or the FBA, as long as you openly know where I stand, and have no problem with me, and you're not a snake or somebody, something crazy, then I definitely don't mind, working on projects together, or making something shake, building something up. I don't mind personally at this time, but again, I'm approaching this as individuals. It's like I'm looking at the individual and not so much of these ideologies that guides these groups, or whatever is guiding these groups, or the state of consciousness within those groups. I'm not into that. I'm looking at the person's soul and whether they resonate with me at that point. I don't really care what they label themselves as, and that goes just from my approach to the whole world. But right now, this is about Black Americans. I know I have met other people who are disillusioned with all of this infighting. It's not just me, it's plenty of us. I've received phone calls and people just incredibly sad and incredibly disillusioned, disappointed, discouraged a bit, because we are concerned with some overarching goals for this entire community, and that obviously includes everyone, and it does suck to see the amount of drama, and I try to stay clear of shit, but sometimes it may knock on my door too, and that's fine. I address it or whatever. But we're tired of the infighting, and it's like, hey, well, let's just build our own little enclaves, of like-minded people at this point, and that's what I'm ready to do. I'm like, let's build our own little enclave based on obviously resonance, based off your state of consciousness, and that's the level of where this may even possibly end up if the infighting doesn't stop. But I want to also talk about nuance. Let me just take a swig of this celery juice this one moment. Okay, but nuance, it's something that we're lacking. This idea that we have to see things in dichotomy, black and white. That it's for us to get through the growing pains of what we're going through as Black Americans, as American Indians, whatever you identify, even within Black America, with your FBA, ADOS, Freeman, the growing pains of collating or of trying to set some objectives and goals that can be realized for this community, as well as just even identity. What's going to help get us through those growing pains is the element of nuance, or what a wise woman told me, one of my teachers that I admire, is to understand the spirit behind a thing, to understand the spirit, and that's key here, because what's happening is we're putting people in boxes. We're trying to force a false dichotomy on one another, and it's going to get extremely uncomfortable for people who have this multifaceted spirits, to just follow just one thing, or to be one thing, or to have to agree with what other people, or you get castigated if you don't do this group think thing, so the key to resolving that is understanding the element of nuance. Nothing is as bad as it is, and nothing is as good as people say it is. It's like, people have a sense to be very hyperbolic about things that they agree with and things that they don't agree with. So people, that's just the nature of humans. It's like, okay, well, this is what I believe, and this is what I think, and this is why it's the best. So they're going to try to sell it to you like, hey, and then if they disagree with something, and it's like, oh, that's the worst thing, that person is the soul, and it's like, it's never, it's when, they say it's two sides to every story, then there's the truth, or they say it's three sides to every story, and then there's the truth, or some shit like that. Well, that's an element of nuance, understanding the spirit behind a thing. And people, they come up with these rhetorics, and they come up with various ideologies, or whether they're right or wrong, valid or not, is not the point. It's like, well, what is the spirit behind this, and what is the message? What is their objective? And is that objective, can I resonate with that? Do I understand it at least? Is the objective completely wrong? And perhaps it is, but it's like, who does it affect at that point? Are you affected by it? The nuance, when I see the lack of nuance in these movements, is like, okay, if you're identifying as American Indian, then you are against ADOS and you are against Freedmen. And it's like, huh? Like, I didn't say that. Like, what? It's like, why do I have to be put in a box? Or if someone's a Freedman, and some of these Freedmen know that they're Indians, and it's like, Now they have to have to go into beef with the American Indian community and call them pretending. They're like, hey, I don't want to do that shit. Like, what the fuck? Like, so it's some weird. It's like this, and again, it's unconscious. So it's not like people are, like plotting these things out. It's just the I don't know what that is. If that's a cultural thing in terms of like it's this way or it's the highway, or it's like we don't have time for nuance, and maybe that's what it is. I'm not sure, but nonetheless, I do think that would be the key, because when we think about scaling movements, so now we're going to get a little bit deep here, but when we think about scaling movements, and outreach and mobilizing for whatever reason, it doesn't have to just be for raging against the system or anything like that, but for whatever reason, if you need to scale a movement or scale even an organization, to be frank, you have to have a sound strategy, in terms of your target market, target audience, your go to, I don't even want to say go to market strategy, because then it sounds like I'm just looking at it as purely business, and I'm not. I'm just trying to get a sense of when people, as far as these splinter groups, and when I'm saying the recruiting methods, or the techniques or that they're using to get that acquisition. To get buy-in, you have to get buy-in from whatever your ideology is, whatever your movement is. What I'm seeing, the techniques to get that sort of acquisition or buy-in from other people, just on a social level, you have to have the strategy is just not there. If I'm being frank. And I don't speak out on a lot of weird shit that I see, because it's not important. It doesn't matter. For the most part, things work themselves out. Like the way you structure your processes can determine your outcomes. And even though Black Americans, I will say, just from me studying, just organizations and studying stuff from the outside looking in, we do structure processes a little bit unorthodox, and there's a lot of chaos. There's a lot of chaotic energy sometimes. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I have seen beauty come out of that positionality of just a bit of chaos. So that I'm not judging at all. But in terms of the lack of nuance and diplomacy that I'm seeing, it's going to throw a wrench in scaling your movement, your organization, your ideology, your business, if it has to do with this identity stuff and the way we approach one another. We're, as Black Americans or American Indians, it running the gamut of just running people off. And I explain why. I have been seeing the strategy of calling people names or shaming them. For instance, if someone claims an American Indian identity, you may get shamed by other Black Americans, and whatnot. And this also goes vice versa. I have been seeing it where, if a Black American is saying they're Black, or they are saying that, even if they're aware that they're Indian, they're like, hey, I just use Black American for whatever. Some people, some people don't have any idea about the legalese of Black. They have no idea of a federal classification or even of reclassification. And I have seen people not know about none of that stuff, and instead of being shown that information, I have seen those people be called idiots and stupid, and people fly off the handle and just call them names and shame them, like, oh, why are you still doing this, and Black is dead, and and so there's people gonna get obviously offended on both sides, and to me, again, I've witnessed this on both sides. I've said nothing. I didn't even go to anyone and say, hey, what are you doing all that for? I'm like, look, because I process stuff. I take a while to process information before I speak out publicly on it. But I will say that emphatically, those approaches of shaming and name-calling people because they are not doing what you want, or not agreeing with what you say, or are doing it your way, that's going to be a sure way to prevent the scale of a movement. It can actually stifle it and kill it, now, if the goal is not to encourage buy-in, or to get buy-in, or to scale whatever you're doing when in regards to Black Americans, like, say, for instance, if you want more Black Americans doing their genealogy, if you want more Black Americans knowing about reparations, again, I'm not coming at any particular group at all. I'm just speaking from more of an analytical sense. Now, if the goal is to not scale, right, and the goal is to be more insular, and you don't care about any of those things, for instance, like if the goal is to not have, to encourage more Black Americans to do their genealogy, to see where they fall in the line, then you can call people out of their names all you want. You can pretty much do whatever the fuck you want. You'll burn a lot of bridges. It's not savvy, but you do have that right. If the goal is not to scale a movement, if the goal is not to bring more awareness to your plight, then or your goals, then you don't even have to pay attention to what I'm saying. You want to call people stupid and then knock yourself out. But if that is not the goal, then yes, there's gonna have to be some nuance and strategy. We're gonna have to get rid of some dichotomous thinking, and start to see people more as individuals, and try to really understand people's story and ask, well, the why. Why? If you know this, we've been told, this in particular, like there's a group that knows that they're Indians that's still saying that they're foundational Black, to me, I want to understand the why of that, I have zero judgment Again, there's zero judgment for any of these groups. But you know, the key to that scale, or the key to that growing, to get through that growing pains, will be nuance. And again, that goes for the problematic things of this, calling people the pretendian, you know, to shame American Indians, you know, which I addressed in the first video, because that's actually why I created the whole video in the first place. Because again, the name calling is not going to make somebody magically wake up one day, stop identifying with what they identify as. This goes for everybody. It's not going to get them to stop calling themselves what they know to be true, and just agree with, you know, whatever you say. So to me, that approach, I don't know what that's about, but that should be obvious that that's unproductive, but apparently it's not. But yeah, let's move on. I wanted to say some other things as well. So when it comes to like the scaling of the movements, you know, all of these groups are gonna have to reel in their problematic people. You're gonna have to pull people to the side in a very respectful manner, and kind of let them know, like, look, you're making us look bad, or this is not how we really want to move out here. And people know who their problematic people is. Like, I can name them, but I don't get into nonsense and bullshit. But out of each of these groups, there's about a good six, maybe 3 or 4 or whatever, that's out here acting a plumb fucking fool, causing mad drama, causing mad bullshit. And it's like, these people have been able to just act a fool for a year now, or however long, and it's like, when are you gonna check your people? Like, you know, so when scaling, I would say write out your objectives and your goals. And actually did put a video out about strategy, the difference between strategy and technique, or whatever. So so you can kind of see, like, well, how do you plan to get buy-in from other people into your movements, or to what you want to do, if it's just like a more so of an ideology thing. But there's a way to carve out a strategy behind that. And again, I cannot state enough that the name calling and this shaming, or this that vitality, that hostility, it's going to fuck shit up for a lot of people. Again, if that's not, if the goal is insulation and building a very strict enclave with very limited mobility in terms of what you think, in terms of who's allowed to join, that's totally different. But that's not what I'm seeing when it comes to, this Freeman, the FBA. And again, these are not even like, when I say this stuff, I'm not saying it in an organizational sense. When I say join, like, that's not what I mean. So I don't want to cause any confusion on that. These are just lineages. They're splinters of lineages that they're not groups. They're just people resonating with certain people. If you say certain things a certain way, it can kind of be like, oh, so that's a political group, and that is not what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to put anybody on a radar. I'm just saying that I clearly can see splinters, but anyways, I do want to say my personal approach to how I deal with people. I do not care enough to police what other people call themselves. I don't feel the need to castigate anyone either. Anyone that's from North America, anybody that's been in America for quite a bit of time, hundreds and hundreds of years, possibly, is thousands, shit, so I don't want to get into like this thing where, hey, I'm trying to police what you call yourself, or that's not my thing. If I see problematic shit, I fall back and I get the fuck out of Dodge. That's just my approach. I don't like to do public brawls about it unless someone does it. If someone brings something about me to the public, that I have to address it. But I don't like to cause a lot of unnecessary drama. and so that's my approach. But also in my soul, like I really want to see people thrive. Like when I say, and I don't really express my emotions publicly, so bear with me, but in the deepest crevices of my soul, when it comes to Black Americans and American Indians, I really want nothing more but to see people thrive and live their best life. Like, I don't want to step on anybody's toes. I don't want to sabotage anything for anyone else or what they got going on or what's for them. You know what I mean? So I really just can't conceive of the level of hostility that's going on. But even between humans, I don't get that either. I mean, I understand getting frustrated and get angry, you go off or whatever. But yeah. As far as the American Indian community, what I would like to say to you in particular, I'm here to contribute in positive ways. I'm still obviously learning information. I'm very excited about information, and I'm a very zealous personality when it comes to learning new shit. So I do feel like I've been a little rambunctious within that community. So I'm like, they're probably like, who is this chick? But please forgive me. It's just more so like, wow. Like I'm like, oh, this is, I'm just like, I don't know, like in the days or something. I wish I had like a meme to show. It's like this meme that they show this little boy like looking all amazed and like it's a wow moment, and that's what I feel when I'm learning that information. I'm still trying to understand the objectives and goals of the American Indian community itself. I know that one component of that is obviously genealogy and knowing your family history and be able to stand in that history in terms of the broader American history story, and seeing where you lie into that, and to see what happened in certain areas and whatnot, and certain tribes, and to recover certain aspects of identity. Obviously, I understand that, and I think that is amazing. I do wonder, like, what is the goal after that, but I'm sure that's something that would be people, we have time to do that, but that's what I'm saying. Like, it's that is something that I think about, but it is what it is. I guess eventually that time will come. But if there's ever like conferences, or if there's ever a need for like flyers or websites, research material, ebooks, whatever, you name it, you can reach out to me. I'll be happy to contribute in any way that I can, and that also goes for Black Americans as well. And I mean no harm to any community. When I use Black American, I do not mean to. I don't know if I'm causing harm, or I can feel tension. I'm telling you, I can feel shit, and I'm like, are people like upset at this? But I do not feel called in my soul, or even find it necessary for me to just abandon Black American lexicon or culture, or whatever this group of people have been doing. Again, there's nuance there. You can obviously you're going to see things that are problematic, but you're also going to see things that are quite ingenious, and I'll explain a bit of some of the shit that I'm working on. Like, I've seen some pretty ingenious things from this group, I just don't feel the need to just toss it all away, because of me coming into a different paradigm. Simply because there is a energy buildup of consciousness that has to happen for Black Americans to come into the truth of who they are, individually, and even probably maybe collectively, or maybe still in this faction shit. There's always going to be factions. It just is what it is. And I do think that door should be open to anyone receptive to information. Granted, they don't have a history of unforgivable disrespect or unforgivable things that they have done. If they have not caused so much disruption, and they're just out in the world not knowing about genealogy, or not knowing about legalese, or just out in the world, I don't know, something in my soul just will not judge that, or something. I cannot bring it in my heart for anyone to just be like, oh, these people are lost, these people are stupid, these people are, I don't know, like, and I'm not saying that that's what's happening, but I have heard individuals say that. I'm not saying that's the overall arching message, but I have heard individuals say that, and I'm like, what the hell, like, I'm trying to wrap my heart around this. I really am, like, because I think a lot with my head, and I do a lot of mental processing. But now that I'm having to deal with the heart space a lot lately, as a woman, I've just been extremely emotional lately, which is really new for me. But it is what it is. I don't know. I just don't feel like I can have that level of disdain for someone because of what they're calling themselves, or maybe their lack of knowledge about something. But that's just me. And I say this because, like, say this awakening comes, or say this people, there's this push for this genealogy, and then you see people really going hard for it, because eventually with this reparations stuff, and this stuff about this 1870 shit, whether we agree with it or not, people are gonna have to go and digging around somewhere to pull out these census records, to pull out, and my estimate is that many are going to be able to get past 1870. Now, that doesn't, politically, they're going to tell people that, you cannot get past 1870, or there's no need to look. So it's like, there's no incentive. The cutoff is 1870. Okay, that's what we'll go look for. Boom, we got it. Okay, where's the reparations? Or whatever else criteria there is to make sure that they meet it. But I suspect that there will be at least 10 to 20% that go further. What if it's more? I mean, they can go further than 1870. That out of their own curiosity and just getting enjoying the hobby of discovering information about themselves, like just literally just enjoying that hobby, or just wanting that burning desire to really know more about their story. Out of all 40 million Black Americans, what if you get 10 to 20% that does that? Now, what if it's half? Now we're talking millions of people who because what if it's like 10% that was just reclassified? What if it's just 20%? We're still talking millions of people here. So then it's like, those people be like, hey, I don't know about all this stuff, I'm seeing all this stuff about me being an Indian, or I'm seeing all this stuff about me being from Europe. I'm seeing all this other shit. I'm seeing, I don't know, like, I in my soul, but actually what's been shown to me, there are going to be a lot of people that deal with this conundrum, and in about less than 3 years, less than about 2 to 3 years, there is a push. This is a silo. It's a energy surrounding this. With me sensing that, okay, we got 10, 20%, 30%. Okay, what if it's 40% of people who decide to go digging, really, really digging? I mean, that's clearly millions of people. Now, that's the vision for what I can see. So that is why I do not burn bridges with Black Americans, or with anybody for that matter. I don't want to burn bridges with American Indians either, obviously. But I can see that the board may change suddenly. There's going to be energy streams just infused, pushing people to recover certain aspects of American history, to cover awakening of certain bloodlines. It just is going to happen. So I'm clearly seeing that the Black Americans are doing their genealogy. I've seen Black Americans in ADOS do their genealogy and confide certain shit to me. I don't come out about names and people and all that. That's just not my thing. But I know for a fact, that some of these people that are freedmen, and some of these people that are ADOS, that are still freedmen, that are still FBA, they know for a fact that they have been reclassified, that they are an Indian that was reclassified to Negro, into Black, into African American. They know that, and they're working through those things. They're getting into. They still want to get into this political stuff, or they still want to challenge the U.S. corporation on their land. Yeah, this is just what it is. These are people. They're humans. You can't. People are not going to just fit into a box. There's a lot of nuance. Okay, so I'm back, but yeah, I can I ignore a lot of shit just for the sake of making sure that people don't get distracted. I mean, we know we love entertainment and niggas getting into drama and shit. And I watch a lot of shit, that I probably shouldn't be looking at after my day is done. Yeah, like with me, it's like, okay, I'll just ignore that shit, or I'm not gonna make a big. People have, even called me, reading me text messages that motherfucker done sent somebody that I wanted to build a deep friendship with, and there was a little fallout, and then motherfucker, someone, they called me, reading me the text message from what this person said and shit. I'm like, and I told that person, why I don't want to hear this shit. Like, I don't have time for it. And I guess they was thinking like, okay, you about to say a whole bunch of shit back, and I'm gonna run back and tell the other person. I say, I'm not calling the other person or engaging. I don't know what more. Thanks for the information. I was pissed about it. I was hurt, actually. I was pissed to see what people conjure up, and what people don't even focus on, like the legitimate grievances that you may have brought forth. Is just like, what? Like, how did you twist that up like that? Like, how did you fucking twist that shit up and can't see a thing for what it is? Like, that to me was strange. But nonetheless, I wish these people the best. But yeah, I just have to charge a lot of stuff to the game in terms of if you do not want to be put in the box, or if you do not want to be labeled so in with such intransigence, where do you stand? How do you keep that diplomacy? Well, for me, I will say openly that I do that by not detailing private conversations that I have with people. When someone tells me something in confidence, I do keep it to myself, and I'm not a messy person. I do not like messy shit. Oh man, I don't. Now, there is an elder that I do talk to about a lot of shit in my life. And there's an elder. She's around, she's like in her 60s. Like, she's older than my mom. And I have told her quite a bit about myself. And if she ever wanted to go get a rundown, like just go off and just spill the beans about my life, she knows a lot about my childhood, about just even how I lost my virginity, about some of the intricacies of me being adopted, but having that open relationship with my mother and father on a weekly basis. I expressed to her some of the confusions, with going 1 week, with my adopted family, then going the next week with my parents, and as far as like there's confusion around child rearing and even expectations that comes with that, and so I expressed certain stories about my life. I expressed my social anxiety, and I've been dealing off and on with that like since I was 13. This person knows quite a bit, and maybe that was stupid as hell to do. Maybe it was stupid to just go and tell like some of the intricacies of this with my sister, with my adopted family in detail, my mom's in detail, so and I don't know, like with me, I'm kind of transparent, and I do feel that one day in my life, through the vetting process, or just through me having to be more transparent with the people, that shit's gonna come out anyways. And actually, I had already told like a room full of like 200 people like a year ago my story about me being adopted, and the whole thing with the system, and how that all played out, and I had already expressed that to people. I've also expressed like coming from the hood and shit, so to me these things are not a big deal. in totality, in terms of like, okay, if someone want to spray my ass or air my ass out to the public, I guess they could, but I don't think it would. It's not something I'm hiding in that sense, or nothing that I'm certainly ashamed of. So it is what it is. But for me personally, when people call me and tell me private shit and tell me stuff that about their life, I'm never, it's never gonna get out to the public. That's just me. It's never gonna go out to another person, because that's how motherfuckers play telephone, and that's how shit blow up. Like that can really blow, like that can really mess up a lot of stuff, you know. It just you know, the gossiping and the going back and saying so and so girl, you know. And I'm not saying I have never gossiped before. That's not what the fuck I'm saying, because that's just not true, you know. But when it comes to building solid relationships or people that I want to build friendships with, there is a level of authenticity and loyalty that I expect and that I am willing to give. Now, I want to talk about my thoughts on this current reparations claim, because again, this has to do with Black Americans, but also there's no secret that I was learning about the reparations claim and movement for the last year from people from the ADOS community, as well as people from the Freedmen community. And I don't think FBA was out at that time. Maybe they were, I don't know. But I just remember, you know, learning about this reparations stuff and people explaining about the justice claim. So to me, I'm like, hey, okay, what's that about? Again, when I don't know something, I do observe for quite a bit of time before I speak out on things. And you know, sometimes I can speak out of ignorance of not knowing something, and I can admit that. But when it comes to the reparations claim, obviously I'm excited that it's lineage based. I did sit in those task meetings, those virtual task meetings from the beginning to end, and give my thoughts in that chat box. We acted a donkey, you know, in that chat box with the, you know, lineage based. It has to be lineage. And to me, and I don't mind doing that, nor do I regret it at all. Why? Because I was under the impression that at the time, from what I'm understanding, the legalese in that bill had changed, based off of whoever was new on the committee that got on. From what I'm understanding, it did not say African American originally. I was told, I'm just regurgitating what I was told. I was told that it said ADOS, or American Descendants of Chattel Slavery. And for whatever reasons, it was changed to, I guess it was changed to African American. Somebody was removed off of a committee board, and then yeah, so this is what I have to learn this stuff from other people, because believe it or not, I'm maybe a little more political savvy now, just a little bit, but politics is just not my thing. Like I would have to like learn that it's not my thing anymore. I used to be into politics when I was younger, but yeah, I know it's just not my thing. So I have to learn this stuff from other people, and have to read stuff and research it for myself. But as far as the African American misnomer, and the I don't understand who are the power players that is causing this sort of coercion to even put African American in this bill, or on this group of people, when American Descent of Chattel Slavery was originally in there. So I want to know, like what is the process for removing that kind of language? Is it just simply an amendment, or is there some politics behind all that? But also, I don't understand why are millions of Black Americans being ignored when they are emphatically saying that they are not. They don't want to be called African American, and they don't see themselves as African American. Like, how do you just force a misnomer? How do you just put a federal classification on a group of people when it's like there's a reason for why all these splinters are coming out. You got people saying they're FBA, you got people saying they're ADOS, you got people saying they're Freedmans, you got people that's going by their tribal names, you got people that's saying they're just American Indian, there's people that's saying they're I think there's this new thing called Aboriginal or something. You know, I don't even think it's new, I just think I just found out about it. But so it's like you have all these people saying all these different. I even heard somebody tell me that and this is like, I actually have this, like, this, somebody wrote me this. It was like, I consider myself a pre-Civil War population descendant. I said, oh, okay. And now I'm seeing descendant of emancipated people. Or was it emancipated people or emancipated freedmen? Maybe it was emancipated. I forgot. It was like an acronym. Descendant of emancipated. And I forgot the last, the letter. But I'm like, if you see that there are millions of people, I mean, that are this pushback. I mean, they had this room on the Twitter Spaces that that went on for like, I want to maybe say 6 hours, maybe possibly longer. And it said calling me an African American is like calling me the N-word with the hard ER. And I remember thinking, like, damn, like, I thought it was a bit extreme. And I mean, I was just like, people are not playing. And these were hundreds of people. I think, you know, as far as the analytics, the amount of people that tuned in, you know, to talk about that, it's like thousands. So I'm like, what the hell is going on with this disconnect that I'm seeing? So to me, when I'm seeing this justice claim and reparations, I obviously think that when people can prove that they are the people that are harmed by whatever the grievance is, whatever the injustice is, then obviously I guess they should be compensated. There's nothing wrong with such compensation. And I do think that Black Americans deserve compensation, and including myself in that. I'm my people's. We went through the Jim Crow shit. We lost a lot of land and shit by legal chicanery and theft. You know, so you know, I would say that for me, I find it odd about this legalese stuff. I find it odd, again, that you can have a bunch of Black Americans saying they don't want the federal classification of African American, and yet they using that term in this bill, like even in that task meeting, like they probably said African American like 1,000 times, African American, and you got people, somebody got thrown out of that damn task committee meeting acting a fool because they were saying they not African American, that they Indian, like straight up, like somebody was like, why are you calling me that? You know, and got dragged out or whatever. I don't think it was a dragged out. I think they just got put out. I'm not sure, but I don't understand why y'all can ignore. Like, why would you ignore that? Like, am I crazy? Like, why are you? And then I don't understand, like, why are you ignoring the specific in the Indian slave trade and just focused on the transatlantic slave trade? Like, it just seemed like there's some politics. Like, it seemed like something just not clean in the buttermilk. Like, to rush and just try to. It's like, it seems like it's something, a push that's behind this that's making me kind of like nervous. Like, when I see people just, y'all all the same, y'all all came from this, you're all gonna go on, get an 1870 census and be identifying as Black for the, like, and then when we're doing this genealogy is like, or we just going through our oral histories, something is just not adding up about this whole thing. And it just seems political. It seems like there may be somebody that's pulling some strings or something, or there's some master puppets behind all of this. I don't know, but I do hope that whoever that for one that the claim is pristine, and that maybe it'll get cleaned up by the time something ever gets put through in terms of the legalese, in terms of the misnomers, and even just arbitrary shit. Like, maybe one day the focus is truly on the injustices that had occurred in America in terms of the institution of slavery, the obviously the black codes during the Reconstruction period, but also you know, benign neglect policy. I would say, obviously, the Jim Crow period. All those things need to be accounted for. You know, the 20 million acres of land that was lost, all of the land that was stolen. You know, the people estimate that it could be 100 million. I don't understand how the justice claim is hinged upon, from what I'm reading, or is hinged upon the specifically the boat ride over, and to me, it's not emphasizing the actual shit that occurred in North America enough for me personally. I don't understand why that is. I don't understand, and I do find that weird. I'm not gonna hold you. Like, I find that weird that they have all this stuff about African American in there, and then when these Black Americans are doing their genealogy, they not finding nothing that emphatically states that they are African, or that they're, even if they find slaves, that the slaves were from Africa. And I'm not saying that they're not from Africa. I'm just saying, like, all of this stuff just seems muddied. Like, the history seems muddied. There's a lot of shit going on, and knowing that, and Black Americans knowing that themselves, and who are pushing back, like, hey, like you know, we need this cash infusion or whatever they're trying to go after, because I don't really know. I know there was a report just released about, I think it was like 500-page report on what the reparations could possibly look like. So I think I am going to have to go and read through that myself. I'm going to have to, because I'm still learning stuff, but from what I'm seeing now, just the legalese, the misnomer of them using that African American term is alarming to me. That's all I need to know, because there's so many Black Americans. Like, I keep my ear to different groups, and I'm hearing them say, why are they calling us this? Why are they saying this? This is not our identity. We have the right to self-identify. We have the right to come up with our own federal classification. So why are they pushing this? And who's like, to me, that is enough to kind of make me side-eye whatever it is they're trying to do, because a lot of things, it goes over people's head in terms of how do you permanently get someone off of their landmass, or get them to or mark them on par with immigrants. You know, pretty much, like, when you're using that misnomer, it is making someone an immigrant in the land that they built, in the country that they have always been in. And I find that strange. I find the politics behind this strange. And then when I ask the questions, I don't be getting straight answers. I'm saying, like, I don't be getting a straight answer, really. Like, when I ask people, like, you know, well, what is the coercion, or who's being told to say that? And why, you know, as far as, like, when these bills get written, or when these bills get proposed, who is telling who's saying put African American in there, take Freedman out, or take ADOS out, or take whatever out? Why? What's going on with that? So that's what I want to know, and that's how I want to know, how can you reconcile having a bunch of people say that that's not their classification, and then just put it on them like that? And I just find that disturbing. All you can do is tell people about the legalese in the document, ask some questions about it, ask some hard questions, and ask if there's any amendments that can, like, is there anything that can be done about that? And if not, then, you know, I don't even really, that would just be the end of it for me. But for the people that do find that they are a victim of the transatlantic slave trade through their genealogy, and they do find that, I do, and they apply for that, I guess, the reparations. I don't see nothing wrong with that. I don't see anything. I mean, I would never want to get in between a person and their personal story, if that's what they know, that they have found someone from Africa that was enslaved. You know what I mean? Like, that's major. So they should if that bill fits, you know, if that reparations claim fits them, they should go after that. But there is this thing where I have personally talked with Black Americans that told me out their mouth that they know that they have not found anything about slavery in their genealogy, that they have not found anything about the transatlantic slave trade or African in their genealogy. and they still playing. They still want that check, and they don't care. They say they gonna turn someone into an African if they got to. And I've seen people lying about their genealogy, like turning like people that they know own the fucking land, own the land, and telling the public that they a damn slave when they was never even a slave. The person that they're claiming was the slave was actually the landowner, and they're saying like, I can use this to go get our reparations. Like, that's fraud. Like, to me, in my mind, that's fraud. So I'm like, I hope that Black Americans, that y'all not gonna sit out here and just, you know, commit the fraud. I mean, to me, the bill says that this is for people that were harmed by the injury of the transatlantic slave trade. So, and as well as I believe it's slavery in there. And someone told me it was Jim Crow in there too. I'm not sure, but to me, it's like that. If that's the injury is there, they're literally saying that the injury is the transatlantic slave trade. Then there's others who say that it sounds like some trickery, sounds like some tricknology happening. It sounds like 20, 40 years from now, the shit may bite you in the ass. You know, if, you know, like how a lot of other stuff has, a lot of other policies that we may not have realized was detrimental until about 10, 15, 20 years later. And so that's that's another concern that people have. My thing is, go for what is yours respectfully and not on a lie. If you're going to you know, you're going after something and you had something that you feel that you're entitled to, then my thing is just do it on the truth. You know, just do it with righteousness and based on the truth. You shouldn't have no problems when. But when I see someone literally tell me out their mouth that they have not found one African in their bloodline and they gonna turn one into one for their check, my thing is, why is the bill making those stipulations for Black Americans in the first place? It's like, no, the bill need to be fixed. To me, it's like, no, put the institution of slavery, started from the institution of slavery and reclassification of identities, then go from there. Don't be adding in all this other shit. I just find that strange. It's like, why is that even in the bill? Like, all you have to do is start it, and that's how I know it's a lot of politics. And again, I can't get into that like that, because that's not that's just not my flow. I'm like, we don't need to negotiate, or we don't have to like make some compromise about the injustices that we faced. Like, these are people. Like, these are like, even with my own family, I'm like, no, like a lot of people family, they still dealing with, you know, a lot of traumas and shit, and they still trying to work through shit just around their identity and just around their own family business. And and when they're doing this genealogy, they're putting their stories together, and then you got this gridlocked bill that you trying to fit everybody into. That's a problem. It's like, no, do it the other way around. Make it more so where it's obviously lineage based, and it's obviously for those who have been harmed by the vestiges of slavery and whatnot. That you can still get some clear cookie cutter shit as far as who needs the repair, without having to put them in such a box like that. And I do think that could possibly backfire if enough Black Americans catch on to it. Like, I know I caught on to it, you know, and I didn't really go making a big fuss about things, because I really do want stuff to be lineage based for our people, and I don't want to get in the way of anything that maybe even if I don't get to benefit from it. If I know that somebody that I'm cool with, you know, they get to benefit from that in terms of it not being fraud and actually being their story, you know, I would never get in between that. But I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing some really odd stuff, and I'll just leave it at that. But I would tell Black Americans, look through the legalese yourself. See if you're comfortable with that. Do your genealogy. See if it's matching up with what your soul feels in terms of what decision you're going to make and what your ancestors tell you. Like, just be tuned in at that point, because that's a deal, man. It's like you kind of making a deal and you have to make a decision. Like, okay, does my personal history align with whatever this is? But my thing is, I would like to see more of a challenge of the way the shit is written. I would like to see some serious amendments, and that's what I would like. I would like to see Black Americans push back on being of just being generalized like that, and having certain aspects of their story erased, or to have a governmental apparatus ask them to ignore or erase certain aspects of their lineage and identity for something that they didn't even find in their own genealogy. That is what needs to push back, and I'm not seeing it because I don't think many people know, and that's also disturbing. But yeah, I'm gonna move on from that. Also, I want to talk about briefly this B1 fiasco stuff. Oh man, I feel like I just be just so damn long-winded. Forgive me. But I wanted to talk about the B1 fiasco. And again, I saw this shit months ago. I'm like, this global blackness, or what Black Americans say, flat blackness. I did state multiple times that Black Americans are gonna have to deal with the Black misnomer, and on probably a federal level, because this is clearly to me, I see it as an erasure tactic. I see it as possibly a proxy linguistic imperialism. Like to me, I see it deeper. I'll say it. I see that as a way to ethnocide the people, the indigenous people of North America that are brown skinned, that have built up the country, that have gotten enslaved, and various stories as to how they got over here. Some were never enslaved. People have their own individual stories, and I respect that. But I see this, they say that B1 is global blackness, blackness based off of a code. And, obviously, we're like, when have an American political construct of black, when have the continent of Africa identified with that? When has the fucking Caribbean identified with that? Like, what are we doing here? This was a misnomer placed on the American people that were here, that built up this country. So it's like, that's something that they have to deal with in terms of the subject status of that, and what that means. So now everybody wants to make this cool. Oh, it's so cool to be black. Oh, 'cause the Black Americans are the shit. And it's true. Black Americans, is like, damn, like that kind of history, that kind of, and by that, I'm also referring to the American Indians as well, in terms of our history. All of those things that were built out of that crucible, this Alchemy Reservoir, through what we went through, or what some people went through, however you want to see it, shit, that creates a power that is attractive to people that want to cling to that. However, they don't understand the subject status aspect of this, and Black Americans themselves don't even understand it. And like, we're trying to get these motherfuckers to understand it, and the whole world is be what black first and black, and and some Black Americans, they feel like that's a disguise for Pan-Africanism, which is not the wave, and they feel like that is a threat towards ethnocide, and that's a threat towards erasure of a particular ethnicity that was created under the American political construct, and that black it is not just a race, it is the identity of Black Americans. This is the notion. I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm just saying that what was put out on the table from what I gathered from all the bullshit that happened. So knowing that, this is extreme pushback. Well, Black Americans don't understand, and which I was trying. I have even went to people's personal messages that I know had some influence, that I knew were kind of behind a lot of Twitter spaces, or even influencers that may be on YouTube or whatever. I remember trying to really be very delicate, and I'm like, the Black term, I just explained how it's a misnomer that can potentially cause as much confusion as this African American term is causing now. And I was telling them, I said, what they have done in terms of the propaganda, in terms of the media itself, and even in academia, so they have, within the last 20 to 30 years, it's like they've made Black synonymous with race, and not only that, but beyond the American construct. They have been doing this for a while. I know people were slow to catch up on it, but I saw it happen. So I remember reading about the differences between ethnicity and race.